What is going on? This is Michael Hacker with the Hacker Outdoors podcast. Today I'm joined with Brian Hacker as Joey is preparing for his big trip down to Lake Murray for his first tournament of the year. Brian and I go down the path of speaking about the Blue Ridge Mountains, how driving to a destination is half the adventure, as well as some other off-the-cuff topics. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, leave us a comment, a like, and without further ado, we'll jump in.
Here we go.
All right. Brian, man, what's going on?
How's it going?
We are Sans Joseph, who's out running about, somewhere in the nether regions of Maryland in the dirty, dirty South.
Causing trouble, I'm sure, down there.
Causing trouble. Yeah, they got a bit of snow too. It looked like he was sending us pictures earlier.
Yeah.
But he is getting ready to go to the real dirty, dirty South. He's headed to South Carolina to partake in that fishing tournament this weekend, which I was hoping he was going to give us an update, but we'll have to get a recap on Tuesday. Hopefully, if he's back by then. Who knows? Maybe he won't come back. He'll be like, "Go on, you go on now. I'll be all right."
Disappear into South Carolina. Carolina drama.
Dude, totally. I was flipping through YouTube before we were joining here, and I'm a big Meat Eater podcast and Meat Eater show fan, right? And he was hunting in Kentucky. So the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, I think it's Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, they resettled something like 1,200, 1,500 elk into Kentucky, and they have this whole elk program, and basically, the range of the elk, like we saw when we were going through the mountains of the southern region of here in the U.S. And last bull elk was killed on this date on this ridge, and they have never come back. And the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has been, I guess, through some state programs like Pennsylvania, we were talked about a little bit, Elk, Pennsylvania, for example, resettled some elk and have thriving populations in these old growth forests, which is pretty cool because when you think of elk hunting, you think of hunting them out in the Colorado Rockies right above the tree line where you can kind of glass them from, one mountain to another, as compared to, imagine walking around the woods back here, right? And just hearing these bugling elks go at it. It would be something so cool to see that and hear that, in my opinion. I don't know, I'm into that kind of stuff though.
It would be amazing. I have to talk about the Blue Ridge Mountains probably once a week, just to have a conversation with people. People talking about the woods in the Northeast, and I'm like, you have no idea what the Blue Ridge Mountains are, and even the history. People don't realize the history of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's incredible. It's wild. I
love that you have to tell people that. I usually premise, I say, so, we made it to Florida in 12 hours, and they say, what, how'd you do that? It's like, well, we left at the right time, right? Like most people turn it into a 24-hour, 48-hour drive, but we did it in 12 hours. But that ride back, man, I'm so glad we took our sweet time.
Oh yeah.
Meandered through North Carolina and, into Tennessee. And I was telling a former boss of mine, he grew up in Tennessee, and he was telling me a story randomly. He was like, we used to, hunt, growing up, and they would teach us how to hunt. And my father would say, okay, for training, like shoot your rifle and then go run and climb that tree real quick. And he'd be like, why would I do that? And it turns like they would go boar hunting and they would shoot one boar and the whole herd of boars would come chasing you. So he'd have to go climb a tree so the boars don't gore you to death. But I was telling him how absolutely stunning the Cherokee National Forest was when we were driving through it. I was like, I wish we had time. I would have just stopped and got lost in the forest.
Oh my goodness.
Fishing. Like I wanted to fly fish there. I still want to fly fish there.
Me too.
I don't know how it is, but it looked so good.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I actually think about that a lot. I do look up the Cherokee National Forest a lot, just because I'm, curious about it, and I do see some, it is a fishing area, as is most of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I know there's a lot of brook trouts and naturally breeding trouts down there, but it's truly amazing, and think about the settlers that came to America. Like let's say they there was two entries. One, everyone doesn't know this, but I'm a historian, obviously. But there's two main entries in the states at that time, and let's call one Charleston, South Carolina, and we'll call one Boston, Massachusetts. So getting from point A to point B, this is colonial times. You would have to go through the Blue Ridge Mountains. So that's either coming south or going north, and that's what you were seeing. So that was like the true first image that the Europeans and we're getting of America, and it just, I can only imagine what it looked like.
Well, that was the frontier, right?
I mean, that was true
at the time.
The first frontier for sure.
Yeah.
It was wildlands, and the Native American populations in there. There's different groups that fought to keep it, and it's just an amazing history, and it's a treasure for America. And I hope they keep it that way. The pride that comes with the Cherokee name on Cherokee National Forest. Oh, it's bar none.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I get flabbergasted thinking of that drive, and it was cold.
Oh yeah.
But meandering through those mountains and just stopping, like constantly wanting to stop and just get out of the car and be like, can we stay for a little while? Like, how do we do this? Do we have to go back to work? Like, this is.
Yeah, we ended up, we did stay. We stayed in Nashville. Remember? We were like, all right,
Nashville,
let's just stay for a bit. And,
well, it was kind of like the beginning of the ride, right? But the road from the coast. So if you take 95 up from Florida and then kind of cut across and go up towards Asheville, that road was unbelievably steep. Like,
yes.
I don't know how truckers were doing that. Like,
no.
I wish we had a GoPro strapped to the hood of the car to show exactly what that ride was like, because that was pretty freaking cool. And then pulling in Asheville, I mean, those pancakes were amazing that next morning.
I had grits and biscuits and gravy. Oh, so good. So some of the best food too. That trip, that drive, and this goes hand in hand with what this Hacker Outdoors is all about. We just went for a drive. We couldn't fly because there was a lot of grounded flights at the time, and so we were like, we already told our grandfather we were coming down, so we drove it, and even on the way down, we just took 95 down, but we stopped in for breakfast in South Carolina. It was incredible. We got to see all of the East Coast of the United States in one run.
And everything that you would want to see on the East Coast too. It's not like we've done DC. We didn't need to see it. I mean, granted, we drove through it.
We did, yeah.
We saw Virginia in the middle of the night, which I've been to Virginia. I don't think I need to see it again, at least the sections that I have. But we saw the South Bend, and that was pretty freaking cool. I mean, I definitely want to go back and experience a little bit more of Georgia and South Carolina and even North Carolina. I mean, you've done the Outer Banks, and I haven't done that yet.
Ocracoke, go see where Blackbeard was hung. Oh, so cool. So much history. Did you remember now? We actually drove the other way within weeks. I think it was 2 weeks after we got back. We ended up driving to Maine for some reason. Was it 2 weeks? No, I'm sorry. It was a couple months after. That was winter. I think that's summer.
We did we 1 year.
The entire
Florida to Maine. Yeah.
We did Florida to Maine. Yeah. We did a fishing trip to Maine.
That was so awesome. Funny. We did every state on the Eastern Seaboard in under, I think it was like 6 months.
Yeah.
Which was super cool. Maybe it may have been a little bit longer than that, but that was a super epic year for seeing places. I think that was really cool. I mean, I don't even remember what the total was of number of states, but the way that we had taken, we got off the road. We were like, well, we're close enough to this state. We might as well just get off here and try and hit one more while we're out here.
Kentucky. We went through Kentucky because we wanted to hit Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I think Kentucky and Tennessee, I'd like to see a little bit more of that.
Yeah. Not Nashville. Everything else.
Well, don't get me wrong. I kind of want to see Nashville, but I want to see everything else more. Maybe stop Nashville for food, because I bet you they've got some good food places.
Good point.
Yeah. Oh, that barbecue place in Georgia, though.
It's on the road. It was on 95.
It was like a little hut.
Yeah.
Thank God for the internet, man. We would have
Yeah,
never known that.
You were driving, and I looked it up. I was like, hey, it's 5 stars, and it shows on 95. And it was like, I forgot how many reviews, but it was thousands. And it was a 5-star rest stop, 100%.
Oh, totally. Was I'm gonna put it out there, the best barbecue I think I've ever had, and that's saying a lot, because I've had a lot of barbecue, and every time I eat barbecue, I'm like, this is the best barbecue I ever had, just because I like barbecue. But I think that was the best barbecue I've ever had.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that was unbelievable, man. And when Roseanne and our sister and her family drove down to Florida last year, the year before, we were like, you need to stop here and get barbecue on your way down or on the way back. Like, we don't care what time it is. Like, make sure you get there. You have to stop. And I don't think they did.
They did. And Jimmy called us.
Oh, did they?
Yes, they did. But I think it was only Jimmy and Kenny, I think, ate there. And then there was like a Roy Rogers or something right next door, so they could get, or a Bojangles, whatever it was. So the rest of them got that, but Jimmy and Kenny got it, and they said it was most delicious barbecue they were at.
No, you're right, because I think Ryan was the one who said he didn't have it because he didn't like it, and I said, now that you're a little bit older, I'm gonna bust his chops and say, don't you wish you had barbecue instead of a cheeseburger or whatever it is you ate from fast food restaurant? Shoulda, coulda, woulda, my buddy.
Always.
Damn. So that's travel. I have a propensity of wanting to travel by car, and I don't know what it is. I think it's a little bit of manifest destiny that, if you can even say that word these days, of trying to get to someplace far flung from here by car. It's something magical, something almost, I would say, it pulls on your soul, right?
Yeah.
And sure, you can fly to places, but if you can drive there and see the sights, that's half of the adventure and that's half of the fun. And I know some people don't do well in cars, but like, if you do fine in cars, drive. Like, make a trip out of it. Because even if you have to cut down on the amount of time that you're spending at the end location, you're going to find some cool things along the way and it's going to change your mind on things. Like, I remember thinking to myself, from New Jersey, you have this kind of ego, right? Before we drove cross country, it was like no place else in this country could even touch New Jersey, right? Like, we have everything you could possibly imagine within a couple miles here. And you go to these places and you find the most kind people literally everywhere I've been. You meet nicer and nicer people, and amazing food and amazing hospitality. And every state has hidden gems. And you've experienced it. I mean,
oh my goodness,
driving to Maine for freaking lobster rolls. I mean, and turning around and coming back.
Coming right back, yeah. I've had a lot of people reach out for recommendations for a post-COVID world adventure. So, let's say, in the next year when things kind of turn around, where are they going next? And I actually gave a recommendation for this one couple. I said, you guys should fly into Bozeman, Montana, because they're outdoorsy, adventurous type. And I was like, just rent a Jeep and go for it. I was like, drive through Wyoming, maybe drive down to Idaho and just look at it all, and go through Yellowstone National Park, do everything that you can out there, go up to Glacier, because like you said, it's a big amount of space and you're losing a lot of time on the drive, but there's so much to see. You're on the drive, you're gonna be stopping to get out of the car to see the buffalo, or when you see an elk on the side of the road because you want to hear him bugle, and you're one of the national treasures of being the national park systems. There's nothing comparable. And like you said, half the adventure is driving too. I mean, there's a really cool town right at the west entrance of Yellowstone too, by the way. Which
don't give away all your secrets. No, don't give it all away.
Finding that little dusty cowboy bar in the middle of nowhere, Montana, and getting a burger and blowing your mind, like that's the fun stuff. So.
Well, it's almost like, I liken it to, you know, when you would do backpacking camping, or we talked a little
No,
about
yeah.
Neil last week, like you are so exhausted, you have seen so many amazing things, but like when you sit down and you eat food and you're out there, it is the best food you've ever eaten
Hmm.
because you're starving and because of everything, your surroundings, right? And it doesn't matter what it is. So if you're in a car and you're comfortably just tarting along and you're eating your, Slim Jims or whatever it is you're eating in the car, and you stop off at this local bar and you order, maybe in Owls, New Mexico, and you get a green chili cheeseburger. It's just like, probably the greasiest burger you've ever had in your life, but it hits your soul so deeply. Like that place in that park outside the park there that you went to, like it hits your soul differently than if you just didn't go on the journey and you just went there and you're just like, that's just another burger. I don't really care for it. But you've now tied an experience with that food, which has changed everything for you and changed everything for the experience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, I love that. That's why we travel, man.
That's it.
I absolutely adore it.
Me too.
Well, I took the nephew snowboarding last week. We went to some hills and did not go so well. I'll say that. The snow was just too damn deep, man.
Yeah, sticky.
Um, yeah,
It's
and
wet snow.
I should have brought a shovel, sorry, and I didn't. I was using my snowboard, and you're trekking along, and the snow's up to your knees, and it's hard walking up and down hills, and you're using your snowboard to try and pat it down and beating it down and running over it. And I mean, you fell and you had to take your snowboard off to get back up because you were falling into powder so deep.
Hmm.
And the hills aren't deep enough. I mean, if you were on a
No.
mountain, it probably would have been so much fun. But
Yeah.
I spent some time just watching him to get his stoke on. Man, he got some air, and at one point, and he like lands into the pillow of snow just like this. And he's just like, this is awesome. And you're like,
Best
this
day
is
ever.
why we do what we do, man. Yeah, this best day ever. But I took my board off and I just was, picking him up and kind of making sure he had a good time. And that meant all the world to me. That just watching someone get the stoke on his new Travis Rice board, and yeah, we can segue from there into a little more Travis Rice, I guess.
Yeah, T Rice. Now there are two things. One, the video on YouTube that I sent you that we were actually talking about. I watched on my own, and then you told me to watch too. Was phenomenal. It's a free YouTube watch. Everyone should watch it. I actually forget the name of it, Mike, if you can pull it up. But yeah, Travis Rice. The video is great. All his films are fantastic. So anything he produces turns out great. But he did something interesting this year with everything going on in the world, and people kind of the contest formats being questioned regularly now for everything when it comes to extreme sports. He changed it. I'm sure the avid snowboarder listeners that are on this will know it, but he did. It's called the Natural Selection Tour, and basically, I think they ran it in Jackson. I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jackson, Wyoming, and basically they chose a big backcountry line, and they set up cameras all over it, and and they ran a contest, and basically every big snowboarder that was able to go and compete, and they would get two runs and run against one guy against the other. And the format I thought was great. It was men's and women's, and it for me it was exciting because it's the kind of snowboarding I want to do, or the kind of snowboarding I want to see. So like I would pay money to go to Jackson to ride that backcountry line, and to somebody to drive a snowmobile up there to take me out to do that line. And I might not be hitting the giant airs, but I'd be flying down that and doing giant monster carves like you saw the eventual winner, Mark McMorris, his last run. Some of his carves on that run, I thought he fell on one of them, and he just completely parallel to the ground and completely like leaned out. It was incredible. And yeah, I highly suggest all our listeners check it out. That you can watch replays now.
Yeah, and to circle back for a second, you were talking about his film on the YouTubes. It's called Resetter.
Resetter, yes.
Surprisingly, only has 542,000 views. Now I know that's a lot, but it is a great movie. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
know Travis Rice's snowboarding movies, I mean, they're all fantastic. Travis Rice is a legend, and you should watch it. It's great. And I had to rewind a few spots, and I was just like, oh, like that's Jackson. But set me down this path of watching snowboarding videos. Like I think growing up, we've all watched here in America snowboarding videos out in Jackson, out in Vail, out in Colorado, and then Alaska, and then
Alaska.
didn't really care to watch stuff here on the East Coast because nothing was really interesting enough. But I went down the dark path after Resetter of looking up, watching people snowboarding in the Alps, and that is a whole nother freaking experience, man. Like I would have, I don't know, like I consider myself a snowboarder. I know you consider yourself a snowboarder, like, or an avid outdoorsman, but like I like snowboarding. I just never thought like I'd go to Europe for that. Like I think, okay, let's go to Europe. We'll do a little like culture, wine and dine like type situation. Go see the history sites, like because you and I are history buffs. Like chase things down like that. But like these mountains in the Alps and these runs, I was watching this guy who's in France, and he was doing this tunnel run. And I'll send you the link, and I'll link to it in here. And it's a tunnel run. So you're going through this tunnel that bores through the center of a mountain, and it's super narrow and super icy. And you get to the end of it, and there's just this vertical drop. And I was just watching this guy do this. I'm just like thinking to myself, like, how much land it takes to be able to do something like that. Like, no, the West is vast. Don't get me wrong, but this is like maybe the back bowls and things like that. Yeah, that's a little bit different, but like this is a actual manicured ski resort. Like somehow out there in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the mountains, these guys have these snow cats grooming the mountain, and it's like, number one, what a cool job that would be, right? Like you spend days and days up into the mountains grooming this stuff. But yeah, I think I sent you that one video. Did I, or send it to Joe?
Yeah, no, you sent it to me. It was incredible. I was thinking to myself, in the tunnel, like how do they manicure the snow in the tunnel? I don't know. It's like you can't run a cat in there, but that was incredible. And when he came out of the tunnel, I'm not going to ruin for anybody, but and looks left to go down that run. Like I thought to myself, I was like, that's one of the steeper runs I've seen in a because let's face it, GoPros make everything look smaller. I mean, you see waves of mine that I know are overhead and they look like they're waist high. And same thing goes for ski and snowboard videos, and same deal. Like I was doing tree runs and it was super steep, and you look at the video and it looks like it's not, looks like a backyard hill. But this one you could tell was steep in the GoPro video, so that means it was steep. And yeah, it was pretty incredible.
I'm trying to find it in my history. So of course I have a couple of different YouTube channels, right? So the first thing that pops up, someone sent me something from Mel Brooks. It's good to be the king from the history of the world.
Yeah,
Just hysterical. but here we go. Snowboarding the infamous tunnel run, Alpe d'Huez. 4K, Malcolm Moore, 3.1 million views, posted 10 months ago. Like,
there's a reason for that.
It's a great video. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. And that's followed by a video I just watched today that has 2 million views, a 3,800 yard shot by the HCR team. These guys took a 3,800 yard shot with a gun.
Wow.
Like, that is unbelievable. I was talking to Alex today about that because he just got a new hunting rifle, and we were chatting about it a little bit, and he's like, you gotta watch this video. I was like, oh, okay. So he sends it to me. I'm like, wow. Like here I am. Like, I think when I go to the range, like, I'm gonna shoot 50 yards, right? Like 100 yards. Like, this is fun. Where do you even have 3,800 yards to shoot? I don't know. This got to be out west, but
Yeah, has to be.
yeah, man. So kind of quick and easy day here. A lot of different topics. Always good catching up with you, and hopefully everyone kind of enjoys the jumping around from topic to topic. The goal is, like we keep saying, to have more people on. We have been actively reaching out. If you would like to be on the show and you are an avid outdoorsman or woman, by all means, please reach out to us. You can reach us through the Anchor link in the description. You can reach us on social media, or hit us up on our own social medias. That's always welcome as well. But we will continue to talk about things. I don't think we ever run out of things to talk about outdoors. As you see, we're avid outdoorsmen ourselves and kind of runs the gamut. Brian, of course, will probably try and tell you a few more stories about out west, which I would love to hear about because I never get tired about hearing about catching cutthroats. You bastard.
It's a fun story too.
It
Another
is
day.
another day. But it is almost trout season here on the East Coast. The lakes are completely frozen over. I found a nice ice fishing rod set up for $49 on the Amazons, and then some jigs that you have for that for another, I think it was $30, and everything was included. So basically, all in $70. The kicker was in order to get a auger, right? So either one that connects to your drill or a hand auger, they start at like $200.
Yeah. You know who has one? Our cousin Dylan.
Of course he would.
From is it in Maine, or I don't know if he has it at the main house or if, at the cabin, or if it's at the house in Massachusetts. But yeah, it might be,
I,
you know,
I
maybe not,
really
because I think this winter's going to end rapidly.
agreed.
Maybe just even a setup for next year. It's a thought.
I do definitely want to try it. Even if I have to go stay up in Lake George and get it done. The guys want to go camping in May, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be warm enough." I'm like,
No.
you guys are getting hammered up there with snow. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it'll be comfortable, but like,
It'll
it
be like
might be like
the time we went in November, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be nice and warm and comfy." No, it was below zero the entire time, and rained and snowed the entire time.
Well, and the worst part up there is we do the camping on the islands on the lake, and we were up there a few months ago, and it beautiful during the day, and then it dropped down like as soon as the sun hit the horizon. It was, I want to say it was like 20 degrees. It was, and the wind started whipping up, and you're on an island, and you're like, and the
Nothing
guys
block
are
the
like,
wind.
oh no, and everyone's like, oh, I'm freezing cold. This is terrible. I'm like, don't you have emergency blankets? Like I wrapped myself in an emergency blanket. I was good to go. I was sweating, and I had my CPAP machine going. It was wonderful. My big old battery pack. But man, absolute pleasure. We'll catch up hopefully Tuesday when Joe gets back, hear about the tournament a little bit. I did ask him to film a little bit. If he does, we'll try and get that up on the channel as quickly as possible as he sends it in. And everyone, I hope you have a great weekend. Brian, I hope you have a great weekend. And if I get my ice fishing equipment, would you like to go ice fishing?
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
I'm holding you to it. It's recorded, ladies and gentlemen. You heard that, right? All right. Once again, thanks everyone. Let's go Rangers, and have a great weekend.
Adios.
Adios. All right, so that was the Hacker Outdoors podcast with Michael Hacker, Brian Hacker, and of course, Joey McCormick. If you like what you heard, please give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening to or watching this on. Please check the show notes for some links about the topics we discussed today. And as always, we thank you for listening.